On March 31, 2007, 21-year-old college student Lauren Walsh walked into the underground bar in Columbus, Ohio with two friends at 11:45 p.m. Security cameras recorded her entering through the front entrance, smiling, excited for a night out before spring break. The bar had two security cameras. One covered the main entrance where patrons came and went. The other covered the back service entrance used only by staff. Both cameras ran continuously all night. At 2 a.m. when the bar closed, security footage showed every single patron who'd entered that night leaving through the main entrance. College students stumbling out in groups, couples heading home, solo bargoers calling cabs. Every single person who entered the underground that night was captured on camera leaving. Every single person except one. Lauren Walsh walked into that bar at 11:45 p.m. and was never seen leaving. She was never seen again at all. For 17 years, investigators have reviewed that footage frame by frame. Lauren went in. She never came out. She vanished from inside a building that had only two exits, both on camera, neither showing her departure. This is the story of Lauren Walsh and the impossible disappearance that has never been explained. Lauren Marie Walsh was born on August 14, 1985 in Westerville, Ohio, a suburb of Columbus known for its excellent schools and safe neighborhoods, and the kind of comfortable middle-class American life that families move there specifically to access. She was the younger of two children born to David and Patricia Walsh, both native Ohioans who'd met at Ohio State University in the late 70s and had settled in Westerville after David finished his MBA and took a management position at a medical supply company headquartered in Columbus. David Walsh was 49 in 2007, had worked his way up through the company over 25 years to become vice president of operations, had the kind of stable corporate career that provided well for his family without requiring the constant relocation that some executive positions. He was tall, balding, wore wire-rimmed glasses and business casual clothes even on weekends, had the steady demeanor of someone who'd built his life on reliability and careful planning. He coached his kids' soccer teams when they were young, served on the school board for 6 years, was active in the Rotary Club, did all the things that engaged suburban fathers do. Patricia Walsh was 47, had worked as an elementary school teacher for 15 years before Lauren was born, had stayed home to raise the kids, and had never returned to full-time teaching, though she substitute taught occasionally, and volunteered extensively at the elementary school both her children had attended. She was organized, warm, the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday, and organized neighborhood events and made people feel welcome in her home. She'd been the room mother for both her children's classes, had chaperoned every field trip, had been present and involved in her kids' lives in the particular way that stay-at-home mothers of that generation often. Lauren's older brother Michael was 25 in 2007, had graduated from Ohio State with a degree in engineering, was working for an aerospace company in Dayton, was married and expecting his first child. He'd been protective of Lauren growing up, the way older brothers are when they take the responsibilities seriously, had looked out for her in high school even though they'd only overlapped for 1 year before he graduated. Lauren herself was 21, in her junior year at Ohio State University, studying psychology with a minor in communication. She'd always been interested in understanding why people think and behave the way they do. Had talked since high school about wanting to go to graduate school for clinical psychology, maybe becoming a therapist, working with adolescents or trauma survivors. She was bright without being brilliant, worked hard for her grades, maintained a solid 3.4 GPA, was the kind of student who asked questions in class and actually did the reading before discussion. She was 5 feet 6 inches tall, slender, with long brown hair she usually wore straight down her back, hazel eyes that leaned more green than brown, a quick smile that made her immediately approachable. She was social without being wild, had a close group of friends from her sorority, Chi Omega, went out on weekends but wasn't the kind of person who partied during the week, balanced her social life with her academic responsibilities in the way successful college students learn to do. She'd been dating a guy named Brandon Miller for about 8 months in early 2007, a relationship that was serious enough that they'd talked about moving in together after graduation, but not so serious that marriage was being discussed. Brandon was a year older, had graduated the previous spring with a degree in finance, was working at a bank in Columbus, and living in an apartment near campus. They spent most weekends together, alternating between his apartment and wherever Lauren was staying. Had the comfortable rhythm of a relationship that had moved past the initial intensity into something more stable and sustainable. The spring of 2007 had been difficult for Lauren emotionally, because her mother had been diagnosed with breast cancer in January. Patricia had undergone surgery in February, was scheduled to start chemotherapy in April, and the stress of watching her mother go through treatment while trying to maintain her academic performance and her relationships and her sense of normal college life had been weighing on Lauren in ways her friends noticed, even when she didn't talk about it directly. Spring break 2007 was starting the weekend of March 31st. Most of Lauren's friends were planning trips: Miami, Cancun, Panama City Beach, the usual destinations for Ohio State students with money to spend. Lauren had considered going, but had decided to stay in Columbus to be available for her mother, who would be recovering from her second round of chemotherapy She'd told her friends she was fine with it, that she'd rather be around for her mom, that there would be other spring breaks. But on Friday night, March 30th, Lauren had seemed restless. Her roommate, a girl named Megan Porter, who'd known Lauren since freshman year, said later that Lauren had been talking about how she needed a night out, needed to blow off steam before spending the week being supportive and responsible, needed to feel like a normal college student for a few hours, instead of someone constantly worried about her mother's health. Saturday, March 31st, Lauren had spent the day with her parents in Westerville. Patricia was feeling better than she had the previous week, was between treatment cycles, and had some energy back. They'd had lunch together, had watched a movie in the afternoon, had the kind of easy family day that feels ordinary in the moment, but becomes precious when you look back later and realize how rare those moments are. Lauren had driven back to campus around 7 p.m. She'd called Megan and their friend Alexis Thompson, suggested they go out that night, do something fun before everyone scattered for spring break. Both friends had agreed. They'd make a night of it, go to dinner somewhere, then hit some bars on High Street near campus, the strip of restaurants and bars and shops that catered to OSU students, and that was always packed on Saturday nights during the school year. They'd met for dinner at 8:30 p.m. at a pizza place they all liked, had spent 2 hours eating and talking and laughing, the kind of easy, casual time that college friends have when there's no particular agenda beyond enjoying each other's company. Around 10:30 p.m., they'd decided to go to the Underground, a bar that had opened 6 months earlier and had quickly become popular with the OSU crowd. The Underground was on High Street, 2 blocks from campus, in a basement space below a vintage clothing store. You entered through a street-level door and walked down a narrow staircase into a space that was bigger than it looked from outside, decorated with exposed brick walls and dim lighting, and the kind of deliberately grungy aesthetic that college bars cultivate. It had a main bar area, some seating along the walls, a small dance floor in the back, and a patio area that was closed in winter but would open in a few weeks when the weather warmed up. It was popular because the drinks were cheap, the music was good, and the owner didn't card too aggressively, which meant freshmen and sophomores could get in fairly easily. Security was minimal. 1 bouncer at the door who checked IDs, 2 bartenders, a manager who worked the floor. The bar had installed security cameras the previous fall after a fight had resulted in property damage, and the owner wanted footage for insurance purposes. There were 2 cameras. One covered the main entrance at the top of the stairs, filming everyone who came in and went out. The other covered the back service entrance where deliveries came in and trash went out, a door that was kept locked from the outside and that only staff could open from inside. Both cameras recorded continuously to a DVR system in the manager's office. Lauren, Megan, and Alexis arrived at the Underground at 11:45 p.m. The security camera at the main entrance captured them clearly. 3 college girls in jeans and nice tops, Lauren wearing a black jacket she'd later leave at the coat check, all 3 smiling and talking as they descended the stairs and entered the bar. Inside, the bar was crowded but not packed. It was the night before spring break started, so a lot of students had already left town, but there were still maybe 70 or 80 people inside when Lauren's group arrived. They got drinks, found a spot near the bar to stand and talk, ran into some people they knew, had the kind of normal Saturday night that happens in college bars across America every week. Brandon Miller, Lauren's boyfriend, wasn't with them that night. He'd been invited but had declined because he had to work early Sunday morning and didn't want to be out late. He'd talked to Lauren on the phone around 10 p.m. before she'd left for the bar, had told her to have fun, to call him when she got home. That was the last time they spoke. At some point after 1 a.m., the exact time is unclear because witnesses gave conflicting accounts, Lauren told Megan and Alexis she was going to the bathroom. The bathrooms at the Underground were down a narrow hallway near the back of the bar, past the dance floor, through a short corridor that also led to the back service entrance. Megan and Alexis both said they remembered Lauren saying she was going to the bathroom. Neither of them remembered seeing her come back. The The bar was crowded, the music was loud, they'd been talking to other people, and at some point they just realized Lauren had been gone longer than it should take to use a bathroom. By 1:45 a.m., Megan was starting to worry. She'd tried calling Lauren's cell phone multiple times. It rang but went to voicemail. She'd checked the bathrooms. Not there. She'd walked around the entire bar, looking for Lauren's black jacket, her brown hair, her face in the crowd. Nothing. At 2 a.m. the bar started closing. The lights came up. The music stopped. The bartenders announced last call. The crowd started moving toward the exit, that familiar end-of-night shuffle of drunk college students finding their friends, settling tabs, heading home. Megan and Alexis stayed, still looking for Lauren, increasingly panicked now, because the bar was emptying out and Lauren wasn't anywhere they could see. They'd grabbed the manager, a guy in his 30s named Scott Hendricks, told him their friend was missing. Hendricks had made an announcement over the sound system asking for Lauren Walsh to come to the bar. No response. He'd had his staff check the bathrooms again, check the patio, even though it had been closed all night, check the storage areas. Nothing. By 2:30 a.m. the bar was empty except for staff and Megan and Alexis. Lauren was gone. Megan called 911. When Columbus Police Department officers arrived at the underground at 2:45 a.m. on April 1, 2007, they were initially treating the call as a routine missing person report, the kind that happens in college towns every weekend when drunk students get separated from their friends and turn up a few hours later at someone else's apartment or walking home alone. But as Officer Daniel Morris took statements from Megan Porter and Alexis Thompson, and from the bar manager Scott Hendricks, the routine nature of the call started to feel less routine. The girls were adamant that Lauren wouldn't just leave without telling them. They'd been friends for years. They were responsible enough to look out for each other. Lauren had driven her car to campus and parked it in her apartment lot. Megan had confirmed the car was still there. Lauren's purse was still at the coat check, unclaimed, containing her ID, her credit cards, her phone, her keys. What Lauren had on her when she disappeared? Nothing. No phone, no wallet, no keys, no jacket. Just herself, in jeans and a blue top, presumably intending to return from the bathroom. Officer Morris asked Hendricks about the exits. How many ways out of the building were there? 2, Hendricks said. The main entrance where customers came and went, and the back service entrance that was kept locked from outside and could only be opened from inside by staff. Both exits had security cameras? Yes. Both cameras ran all night, recorded everything to a DVR in the office. Morris asked to see the footage. Hendricks brought him to the small manager's office behind the bar and pulled up the recordings on a computer. The main entrance camera showed everything clearly. Time-stamped footage from 11 miles p.m. when the bar opened until 2:15 a.m. when the last customers left. Every person who entered was captured on camera walking down the stairs. Every person who left was captured walking back up. Morris and Hendricks watched the footage from 11:45 p.m. There were Lauren Walsh and her 2 friends, clearly visible, wearing exactly what Megan and Alexis had described, entering the bar. They fast-forwarded through the night, watching people come and go, watching the gradual thinning of the crowd as it got later, watching the final rush of people leaving when the bar closed at 2 a.m. And Lauren Walsh did not appear in that exit footage. Not at any point during the night, not leaving alone, not leaving with friends, not leaving with strangers. She simply wasn't there in any frame of the departure footage. Morris asked about the back entrance. Could she have left that way? Hendricks pulled up that camera's footage. It showed the service entrance from the inside, recording the door and the hallway leading to it. The door had remained closed and locked all night. No one had gone in or out. At several points, staff were visible in the hallway. A bartender taking out trash around 12:30 a.m. A busser carrying supplies around 1:15 a.m. But the door itself had never opened. Morris had Hendricks freeze the footage at random points throughout the night. Every time the door was closed, the hallway empty or briefly occupied by staff going about normal duties. No one had left through the service entrance, including Lauren Walsh. Morris felt something cold settle in his chest. This was no longer a routine missing person case. A 21-year-old woman had entered a bar with 2 friends. The bar had 2 exits, both monitored by security cameras that ran continuously all night. Neither camera showed her leaving. Her personal belongings were still in the bar, and she had vanished completely. By 4 a.m., Morris had called for additional units and had requested a detective respond to the scene. By 5 a.m., Detective Sarah Chen was at the underground, reviewing the same footage Morris had reviewed, reaching the same impossible conclusion. Lauren Walsh had entered the underground at 11:45 p.m. on March 31, 2007. Security footage proved it definitively, and she had not left through either exit. Security footage proved that too, equally definitively. Which left a problem that would define the investigation for the next 17 years. If Lauren didn't leave through either exit, where did she go? Detective Chen ordered an immediate search of the entire building. Every room, every closet, every storage space, every possible place a person could be hiding, or trapped or unconscious. Officers searched the main bar area, the bathrooms, the kitchen, the office, the supply closets, the basement storage areas below the bar. They found nothing. No sign of Lauren. No evidence of where she could have gone. Chen had the bar sealed as a potential crime scene. No one was allowed in or out while the search continued into Sunday morning. Cadaver dogs were brought in around 9 a.m. to see if they would alert to anything the officers had missed. The dogs found nothing. By Sunday afternoon, the search had expanded to the surrounding area. Had Lauren somehow left the bar through an exit that wasn't being monitored? Were there windows or vents or other ways out that the cameras didn't cover? The building was examined thoroughly. The underground was in a basement space. There were windows near the ceiling along one wall, but they were small, high up, and had been painted shut years earlier. None showed signs of being opened recently. There was a ventilation system, but the ducts were far too small for a person to fit through. There was no third exit. There was no hidden way out. The only ways to leave the underground were through the front entrance or the back service door, and both had been on camera all night, and neither showed Lauren. David and Patricia Walsh were called Sunday morning and told their daughter was missing. David had driven to Columbus immediately, had met with Detective Chen at the police station, had watched the security footage himself because he needed to see it. Needed to understand what police were telling him, even though it made no sense. He'd watched his daughter walk into the bar at 11:45 p.m., visible for just a few seconds on the grainy footage, smiling and talking to her friends, disappearing down the stairs into the bar. He'd watched every person who entered that night eventually leave. Dozens of people, all captured on the same camera, all walking back up those stairs, all leaving the building, except Lauren. She never appeared walking back up, never appeared leaving, just wasn't there in the footage after entering. David had asked the question everyone was asking. How is that possible? Detective Chen had no answer. The investigation into Lauren Walsh's disappearance moved with the urgency and resources that cases of missing young women from good families generate, especially when the circumstances are as bizarre and inexplicable as Lauren's. By Monday, April 2nd, less than 48 hours after Lauren disappeared, the case had been elevated to a major investigation. Detective Chen was leading a team of 6 investigators. The FBI's Columbus field office had been notified and had assigned an agent to coordinate with local police. Media coverage was extensive and immediate. College student vanishes from bar was the kind of story that generated attention, and the impossibility of the vanishing, the fact that cameras proved she'd gone in but not come out, made it even more compelling. The first priority was reconstructing Lauren's last known movements inside the bar. Chen and her team interviewed every person they could identify who'd been at the underground that night. The bar's manager provided credit card records showing who'd paid tabs, giving investigators a starting point for locating patrons. Megan Porter and Alexis Thompson were interviewed extensively. Both walked investigators through the entire evening minute by minute. Dinner at 8:30, arriving at the bar at 11:45, getting drinks, standing near the bar, talking. Around 1 or 1:15, neither was certain of the exact time, Lauren saying she needed to use the bathroom. Neither friend had seen Lauren after that point. Multiple witnesses who'd been at the bar confirmed seeing Lauren earlier in the evening. A bartender remembered serving her around midnight. Vodka soda, she'd paid cash. A guy from her communications class said he'd talked to her briefly around 12:30. Said she'd seemed fine, normal, slightly drunk but coherent. A girl from her sorority said she'd seen Lauren near the dance floor around 1 hour. Hadn't spoken to her but had noticed her there. And then, nothing. No one reported seeing Lauren after approximately 1:15 a.m. No one saw her in the hallway leading to the bathrooms. No one saw her in the bathroom itself. No one saw her leaving the bathroom or returning to the main bar area. She'd walked toward the bathrooms and had ceased to exist as far as any witness could report. The bathroom Lauren had been heading toward was examined forensically. 2 stalls, 2 sinks, standard commercial bathroom fixtures. No windows, no vents large enough for a person. 1 door leading in from the hallway, the same door that led out. No signs of struggle, no blood, no evidence of anything unusual having occurred there. The hallway outside the bathroom led to 3 locations: back to the main bar area, to the women's bathroom, and to the back service entrance. That hallway had been visible to anyone near the dance floor and to anyone using the bathrooms. Multiple people had been in that area throughout the night based on witness statements, though no one specifically remembered seeing Lauren there. The back service entrance was examined again, more carefully this time. The door was standard commercial steel, opened outward into an alley, had a push bar on the inside that would have allowed anyone to exit by pushing. But the door had an alarm that would sound if opened, a loud beeping that would alert staff to unauthorized use. Scott Hendricks, the manager, said the alarm hadn't sounded at any point during Saturday night. He would have heard it from his position near the bar. His staff confirmed this. If the back door opened, everyone heard the alarm. It hadn't gone off. Could the alarm have been disabled? Investigators checked. The alarm system was electronic, connected to a control panel in the office. The logs showed the alarm had been armed all night, had never been disarmed or triggered. And the security camera covering that door showed it never opening. So Lauren hadn't left through the back exit. The camera and the alarm both confirmed it, which left the front entrance. But the camera covering that entrance showed everyone leaving, and Lauren wasn't among them. Investigators had the footage analyzed by video forensics experts. Could Lauren have been obscured by other people leaving? Could she have left in a crowd and been missed in the footage review? The footage was examined frame by frame. Every person who descended the stairs entering the bar that night was counted. 83 people entered between 11 p.m. when the bar opened and 1:45 a.m. when the door was closed to new arrivals. Every one of those 83 people was then tracked in the exit footage. 83 people went down the stairs. 83 people came back up, most leaving between 1:50 and 2:15 a.m. Lauren Walsh had been the 77th person to enter. She never appeared in the exit footage as any number. Not the 77th person out, not any person out. The math didn't work. 83 people in, 83 people out. Except that wasn't accurate. It should have been 83 in and 82 out, with Lauren still inside. Unless she'd left and the camera had somehow missed her, which the forensics experts said was essentially impossible given the camera angle and the fact that every other person had been captured clearly. Brandon Miller, Lauren's boyfriend, was interviewed extensively on Sunday. He'd last spoken to Lauren around 10 p.m. Saturday night. She'd called him from dinner with her friends, had told him they were going to the underground, had asked if he wanted to join them. He'd said no, had work early the next morning, had told her to have fun and to call him when she got home safe. When she hadn't called or texted by 3 a.m., he'd sent her a text asking if she was okay. No response. He'd gone to sleep assuming she'd crashed at a friend's place and would call in the morning. When Megan had called him Sunday around noon to ask if he'd heard from Lauren, he'd felt the first edge of panic. By the time police contacted him Sunday afternoon, he was at the police station demanding to know what was being done to find her. He took a polygraph voluntarily, passed. His whereabouts Saturday night were confirmed. He'd been at home in his apartment, alone, had ordered pizza around 11 p.m., and the delivery driver confirmed the time. His phone records showed no calls or texts to Lauren after 10:05 p.m. He had no motive, no opportunity, and no connection to the bar where Lauren had disappeared. He was cleared quickly and became one of the most vocal advocates for finding Lauren, doing media interviews, helping organize search parties, maintaining a presence in the investigation that spoke to genuine devastation rather than guilty involvement. The bar staff were all interviewed extensively. Scott Hendricks, the manager, had been at the bar the entire night, had been visible in the main area, had no gaps in his timeline. The 2 bartenders working Saturday night both had alibis for their movements, constantly visible behind the bar, dealing with customers, witnessed by dozens of. The bouncer at the door had been at his post all night, checking IDs, managing the entry, had never left his position until the bar closed. None of the staff had any criminal record. None had any connection to Lauren beyond her being a customer that. None had any explanation for where she could have gone. The search for Lauren expanded beyond the bar. Her apartment was searched with her parents' permission. Nothing seemed disturbed or missing, except Lauren herself. Her car was still in the parking lot where she'd left it. Her phone records showed no unusual calls or texts. Her computer was examined. Normal student usage, social media, schoolwork, nothing concerning. Friends and acquaintances were interviewed. Everyone described Lauren the same way: responsible, kind, focused on school and her relationship with Brandon, worried about her mother's health, not the type to vanish voluntarily, not the type to have enemies or to be involved in anything dangerous. The theory that Lauren had left voluntarily was considered and dismissed. She'd left her purse, her phone, her keys, her car. She'd been planning to spend spring break in Columbus with her mother. She'd had no reason to run away and no resources to sustain running away even if she'd wanted to. So if she hadn't left voluntarily, someone had taken her. But how? How do you abduct someone from inside a bar that has cameras covering both exits, without being captured on those cameras, without anyone witnessing the abduction, without leaving any evidence? By the end of the first week, the investigation had reached a frustrating end. Lauren Walsh had entered the underground on March 31st at 11:45 p.m. That was definitive, proven by video evidence. And she had not left through either exit. That was also definitive, proven by video evidence that covered both exits completely all night. She was somewhere. The physics of reality demanded it. People don't vanish into thin air. But where she'd gone and how she'd gotten there, no one could explain. In the absence of evidence pointing toward a clear explanation for Lauren Walsh's disappearance, theories proliferated among investigators, in the media, and in online communities that had become fascinated by the impossible nature of her vanishing. Theory 1. Camera malfunction or gap. The simplest explanation was that the security cameras had somehow failed or had gaps in coverage that allowed Lauren to leave without being recorded. This theory was investigated exhaustively and found to be unsupported. The DVR system showed continuous recording with timestamps for both cameras. There were no gaps in the footage, no periods where the cameras stopped recording. The timestamps were sequential and consistent. Both cameras had been functioning properly before Lauren's disappearance and continued functioning properly after. Video forensics experts verified that the footage had not been tampered with or edited. The files were intact, the timestamps were valid, the recordings were genuine. The cameras themselves were tested. Could they have missed someone? Could Lauren have been in a blind spot? Investigators had people walk through the exits at the same times Lauren would have left, filmed on the same cameras. Every person was captured clearly. There was no blind spot. There was no way to exit through either door without being on camera. This theory was definitively disproven. Theory 2. Third exit or secret passage. Perhaps Lauren had left through an exit that investigators hadn't discovered, a third way out of the building that wasn't covered by camera. The building was examined by structural engineers and building inspectors. Every wall was checked for hidden doors. Every floor was examined for trapdoors. Every ceiling was checked for access points. The ventilation system was mapped completely. There was no third exit, no hidden door, no secret passage. The building's original construction plans were obtained, and compared to the current layout, nothing had been added or changed that would create an additional exit. The windows were too small and had been painted shut for years. The ventilation ducts were too small for a person. There was no basement below the bar basement. They were already at the lowest level of the building. This theory was also disproven. Theory 3. Lauren left, but camera didn't record it. This theory proposed that Lauren left through the main entrance, but that for some inexplicable technical reason, the camera failed to capture her specifically, even though it captured everyone else leaving. This was technically possible, but statistically so improbable as to be effectively impossible. The camera had recorded 83 people entering and 82 people leaving. It had captured every person clearly. For it to miss Lauren specifically would require a malfunction that occurred only during the exact seconds she was in frame, and then immediately resolved itself. No evidence supported this theory beyond desperation for an explanation. Theory 4. Lauren left in a container or vehicle. Could Lauren have been concealed in something, a trash container, a delivery box, a luggage cart, and removed from the building without the camera capturing her as a person? The back service entrance footage showed no large containers or vehicles being removed during the relevant time frame. The only things that went out the back door were small trash bags, and those were few enough to count and were taken out by staff members who were identified and cleared. Nothing large enough to conceal a person was removed from the building through either exit based on the camera footage. Theory 5. Lauren was still inside. If Lauren didn't leave, perhaps she was still in the building. Perhaps she was hiding, or trapped, or had been concealed somewhere. The building was searched multiple times. Every crawl space, every storage area, every locked room. Cadaver dogs were brought in multiple times over several weeks to check for remains. Nothing was found. The building was sealed for weeks, examined section by section, and Lauren was not there. Eventually, this theory had to be abandoned. She wasn't in the building. Theory 6. Abduction by staff or someone with inside knowledge. This theory suggested that someone connected to the bar, staff, or someone familiar with its layout, had abducted Lauren and removed her in a way that avoided the cameras through insider knowledge. Every staff member was investigated thoroughly. Their backgrounds were checked. Their movements Saturday night were documented. Their vehicles were searched. Their homes were searched. Nothing connected any staff member to Lauren's disappearance. And the camera coverage was complete enough that insider knowledge wouldn't have helped. Both exits were clearly covered and remained covered all night. Theory 7. Voluntary disappearance. With help. Could Lauren have planned her own disappearance with someone's help? Someone who knew how to get her out without being caught on camera? This theory required Lauren to have left her phone, purse, keys, and car behind deliberately. It required her to have maintained the disappearance for days, then weeks, then years, without contacting her boyfriend, her family, or her friends. It required her to abandon her mother, who was undergoing chemotherapy. Everyone who knew Lauren said this was completely inconsistent with her character. And even if she'd wanted to disappear, the physical impossibility of leaving the bar remained. Theory 8. Foul play within the bar. Perhaps Lauren had been killed inside the bar and her body removed or concealed in a way that hadn't been discovered. This required someone to murder her, conceal the body somewhere in the building that multiple searches with dogs and structural analysis hadn't found, or remove it through an exit in a way that cameras didn't detect. No evidence supported this theory. No blood was found. No signs of struggle. No missing cleaning supplies that would suggest a cleanup. No gaps in camera coverage that would allow body removal. The frustrating conclusion after weeks of investigation was that none of the theories worked. Lauren hadn't left through the front because the camera showed everyone leaving and she wasn't there. She hadn't left through the back because the camera showed the door never opening. She hadn't left through a third exit because no third exit existed. She wasn't still in the building because exhaustive searches found nothing. She'd entered. She hadn't left. But she also wasn't inside. The logic didn't work. The physics didn't work. Something had happened that shouldn't be possible, and despite all the resources and expertise applied to the case, no one could figure out what. The years following Lauren Walsh's disappearance were years of sustained agony for her family, and of sustained frustration for the investigators who could never close a case that should never have been opened because the circumstances should never have been possible. David and Patricia Walsh became the faces of a missing person case that captured national attention because of its impossible. They appeared on Dateline NBC in 2008. They were featured in a disappeared episode in 2010. They did countless local news interviews, podcasts, magazine articles, any media platform that might keep Lauren's case visible and might generate the tip that would finally explain what happened. Patricia's cancer treatment continued through 2007 and into early 2008. She went through chemotherapy and radiation, endured all of it while simultaneously living with the horror of not knowing what had happened. She said later that the cancer was almost easier to deal with than Lauren's disappearance, because with the cancer, there were doctors and treatment plans and measurable outcomes. With Lauren, there was just absence and uncertainty and the intolerable waiting. She went into remission in 2008. As of 2024, she's remained cancer-free. She's 64 years old now, still living in Westerville with David, still waiting for answers that have never. David retired from his position at the medical supply company in 2015 after 38 years, unable to fully engage with his career the way he had before Lauren disappeared. He'd continued working because work was structure and distraction, but the passion and ambition that had driven his career had been hollowed out by Lauren's absence. Michael Walsh, Lauren's brother, named his first daughter Lauren in 2008. He has 3 children now, lives in Cincinnati, works as an engineer. He talks to his parents weekly, drives to Westerville for holidays, carries the weight of being the surviving child in a family where the missing child takes up more space than anyone who's present. Brandon Miller, Lauren's boyfriend, graduated from Ohio State in 2007, 3 months after Lauren disappeared. He'd stayed in Columbus for a year after graduation, unable to leave while Lauren's case was still active, unable to accept that she was really gone. Eventually, he moved to Chicago for work, married someone else in 2012, has kids now, has built a life that includes the trauma of what happened in 2007 but isn't defined by it. He still thinks about Lauren, he said in interviews. Still wonders what happened. Still has dreams sometimes where she walks into the bar and comes back out and everything is normal. Megan Porter and Alexis Thompson, Lauren's friends who'd been with her that night, both graduated from Ohio State in 2008. They've both said in interviews that the guilt of having been there, of having lost track of Lauren, of having somehow failed to protect her, has never completely left them. They'd been 21 years old, drunk, in a crowded bar. They'd thought Lauren was in the bathroom. By the time they'd realized something was wrong, she'd been gone an hour. What could they have done differently? Probably nothing. But the guilt remains anyway. The underground bar closed in 2009, 2 years after Lauren's disappearance. The owner, a man named Rick Stevens who'd had nothing to do with the incident and who'd cooperated fully with the investigation, said that the business never recovered from the publicity. People didn't want to drink at the place where the girl had vanished. The bar had become associated with tragedy and mystery rather than a fun night out. It stopped being financially viable. He closed it and sold the space has been several different businesses since then. A Mexican restaurant, a vape shop, currently a bubble tea place. None of the businesses reference what happened there in March 2007. The current employees, mostly college kids who weren't born when Lauren disappeared, don't know the history, but people who followed the case know. True crime enthusiasts sometimes stop by to see the building, to stand at the entrance where Lauren walked in, to try to understand how someone could enter and never leave. The Columbus Police Department's investigation officially remains open. Detective Chen worked the case until she retired in 2018. She said in interviews that the Lauren Walsh case was the one that haunted her most in a career full of difficult cases. The one that she turned over in her mind constantly, trying to find the angle that would make sense of what happened. Her successor, Detective Marcus Hill, reviews the file periodically, follows up on tips when they come in, and has maintained contact with the Walsh family. In 2019, he had the security footage re-examined by a new generation of video analysis technology. The results were the same. 83 people entered, 83 people left. Lauren entered. Lauren did not leave. Tips still come in occasionally. Someone thinks they saw Lauren in another city. Someone has a theory about what happened. Someone claims to know something but wants immunity before talking. Every tip is investigated. Everyone has led nowhere. In 2015, a woman matching Lauren's general description was found living in Portland, Oregon, with a severe memory impairment after a head injury. Investigators contacted her, did DNA testing. Not Lauren. Just a woman with a coincidental resemblance and a tragic history of. In 2018, remains were found in a rural area outside Columbus. The bones were examined. Female. Approximate age range. Approximate time of death. For 2 weeks, David and Patricia waited for results. The bones belonged to a woman who'd gone missing in the 1990s. Identified through DNA, her case finally closed. Not Lauren. These false leads, these moments of hope followed by crushing disappointment, have happened dozens of times over 17 years. The theories about what happened to Lauren have evolved and multiplied online. Reddit threads, true crime podcasts, YouTube videos. Some theories are grounded in logic and evidence. Others are outlandish, involving elaborate conspiracies or supernatural explanations. But despite thousands of hours of amateur investigation, despite the extensive media coverage, despite the reward that David and Patricia offered, currently $100,000 for information leading to finding Lauren, the basic facts remain unchanged. Lauren Walsh entered the underground bar on March 31, 2007 at 11:45 p.m. Security cameras prove it. She did not leave through either exit. Security cameras prove that too. She was not found inside the building despite exhaustive searches. She has not been seen or heard from since. Where she went and what happened to her remains completely unknown. 17 years after Lauren Walsh disappeared, the physical evidence in her case consists primarily of what's absent rather than what's present. of the things that should exist but don't, of the explanations that should work but can't. The security footage is the most important piece of evidence, and simultaneously the most frustrating. 2 cameras, running continuously, covering the only 2 exits from the underground. 83 people entered through the front entrance between 11 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. The footage shows every single one of them clearly. Lauren Walsh was the 77th person to enter, time-stamped at 11:45:23 p.m. Between 1:50 a.m. and 2:15 a.m., 83 people are shown leaving through the same entrance. Every person who entered is matched to someone leaving. Investigators created a spreadsheet matching entrance times to exit times for every patron. Everyone went in. Everyone came out. Except that Lauren Walsh, who went in at 11:45:23 p.m., never appears in the exit footage at any timestamp. The back entrance footage is equally. The door remains closed all night except for brief moments when staff use it, visible in the footage, identifiable, accounted for. No one leaves through that exit who shouldn't be using it. The footage has been preserved in original format and has been examined by video forensics experts from multiple agencies. No tampering, no gaps, no technical failures, just accurate documentation of an impossible event. Lauren's personal belongings remained at the bar. Her purse was at the coat check, unclaimed. It contained her driver's license, her OSU student ID, her credit cards, $43 in cash, her keys to her apartment and car, her phone, an LG flip phone, common for 2007, with a fully charged battery, lip gloss, gum, a small notebook. Everything a college student would have in her purse. Her black jacket was also at the coat check, the one she'd worn into the bar, the one visible in the security footage when she entered. This meant Lauren had left the main area of the bar to go to the bathroom, witnesses said, with nothing but herself. No phone to call for help. No keys to get back into her apartment if she somehow got outside. No money to take a cab. Just wearing jeans, a blue top, and whatever shoes she'd had on. Witnesses were unclear on whether they'd been sneakers or heels. If she'd left voluntarily, she'd left without any resources to sustain being away from the bar. If she'd been taken, her abductor had taken her without her purse, which would be unusual in a planned abduction. The bathroom she'd been heading toward was examined forensically. Luminol testing for blood, fingerprint analysis, hair and fiber collection. Nothing unusual was found. The bathroom was clean, showed no signs of struggle or violence. The hallway leading to the bathroom connected to 3 locations. Back to the main bar, to the bathroom itself, and to the back service exit. That hallway had been visible to people on the dance floor and to anyone walking to the bathrooms throughout the night. Multiple witnesses had been in that hallway at various times, though no one specifically remembered seeing Lauren there. The back service exit, the one that never opened according to camera footage, was examined extensively. The door was steel, commercial grade, with a push bar on the inside. Pushing the bar would open the door, but would also trigger an alarm that everyone agreed had not sounded that. The alarm system was tested post-incident. It worked perfectly. When the door opened, a loud beep sounded that was audible throughout the bar. The alarm logs showed the system had been armed all night, had never been triggered. Could someone have disabled the alarm? Investigators checked thoroughly. The alarm system was electronic, connected to a control panel in the manager's office. The only way to disable it was from that control panel. The logs showed no disabling. The manager's office had been locked all night except when the manager was in it, and he'd been visible in the main bar area for most of the night. Lauren's phone records showed no unusual activity. Her last call had been to Brandon at 10:05 p.m. Her last text had been to Megan at 10:32 p.m., saying she'd meet them at 11:30. After that, nothing. Her phone remained on until the battery died sometime Sunday afternoon, but it never made or received another call or text. Her credit cards showed no activity after March 31st. Her bank account showed no withdrawals. Her student ID was never used. Her car remained parked outside her apartment building on Sunday morning when Megan checked. It was still there Monday when police impounded it for examination. Nothing unusual was found inside. No signs of struggle. No evidence of anyone other than Lauren having been in the vehicle recently. Her apartment showed no signs of forced entry or disturbance. Everything was normal except that Lauren wasn't there, and all her personal belongings were still in the bar. The building itself, the underground and the larger structure it occupied, was examined by structural engineers looking for hidden spaces where a person could be concealed. Nothing was found. The building's construction was straightforward. No hidden rooms, no false walls, no unusual architecture. DNA analysis was conducted on various items from the bar, hoping to find evidence of Lauren or of whoever might have taken her. Nothing useful was found. Too many people had been in the bar that night, too much contamination, too little specific evidence of a crime having occurred in any particular location. The bar's employee records and patron credit card receipts provided a list of everyone who'd been there. Investigators interviewed dozens of. Everyone said the same thing. It had been a normal Saturday night. Crowded but not crazy. They'd seen Lauren earlier in the evening, or they hadn't noticed her at all. No one had seen anything unusual. No one had witnessed an abduction or a struggle or anything that would explain her disappearance. The most extensive search was for witnesses who'd been in the hallway near the bathrooms between 1 and 1:30 a.m. Several people were identified and interviewed. A girl from OSU said she'd been in the women's bathroom around 1:15, hadn't seen Lauren. A guy said he'd been standing in the hallway talking to a friend around 1 didn't remember seeing Lauren but acknowledged he'd been drunk and might have missed her. Another woman said she'd used the bathroom around 1:20, thought she remembered someone in one of the stalls but couldn't be sure who. Nothing specific. Nothing that helped explain where Lauren had. The reward offered by Lauren's parents had generated hundreds of tips over the years. Anonymous calls claiming knowledge, people naming suspects, psychics claiming visions of what happened. Every tip was investigated, and everyone was either disproven or led nowhere. After 17 years of investigation, the evidence remains exactly what it was on April 1, 2007. Lauren Walsh entered the underground. She did not leave through either documented exit. She is not inside the building. She has not been found anywhere outside it. The logic doesn't work. The physics doesn't work. The evidence documents an impossibility. Today, 17 years after Lauren Walsh disappeared from inside a bar she should never have been able to vanish from, the people who knew her and the people who investigated her case continue to carry the weight of the unanswered questions. David Walsh is 71 years old, still living in Westerville, still maintaining the website about Lauren's case that he created in 2007, still answering emails from people who have theories or questions, or who have just discovered the case through true crime media. He spends hours every day on the case, reviewing old files, following up on new tips, maintaining contact with law enforcement. It's become his life's work, this search for a daughter who walked into a bar and never walked out. Patricia Walsh is 69. Her cancer has been in remission for 16 years. She's alive and Lauren isn't, or Lauren is missing and Patricia is here, and the unfairness of that persists. She says in interviews that she thinks about Lauren every day, every hour, that there's never a moment when her daughter's absence isn't present, when the questions about what happened aren't circling in her mind. They've both aged visibly since 2007. Photos from before show a couple in their 50s, relatively healthy, successful, comfortable. Photos now show people who've carried extraordinary stress for 17 years, who've had to endure not just the loss of a daughter, but the complete absence of explanation for that loss. Michael Walsh is 42, living in Cincinnati with his family, working as an engineer. His oldest daughter is 16 now, named Lauren after the aunt she never met. Michael says he tells his kids stories about their aunt, wants them to know who she was, wants Lauren's memory to be real for them, even though she disappeared years before they were born. Brandon Miller is 43, married with 2 kids, working in finance in Chicago. He's said in interviews that he's moved on with his life because that's what you have to do, but that Lauren is still there in the back of his mind, the girlfriend he lost under circumstances he'll never understand. When his daughter was born in 2014, he and his wife briefly discussed naming her Lauren before deciding it would be too painful, too much weight for a child to carry. Megan Porter is 39, living in Cleveland, working as a teacher. She's married, has 3 kids, has a full life that includes the night of March 31, 2007, but isn't consumed by it. She doesn't do many interviews anymore, hasn't talked publicly about the case in years, has processed the guilt and trauma as much as anyone can process that kind of thing, and has moved forward. But she said that she'll never forget the moment she realized Lauren had been gone too long, the moment the worry shifted from mild concern to real fear. Alexis Thompson is 38, living in Denver, working in marketing. She's been married and divorced, has 1 child, has said that what happened that night taught her that safety is an illusion, and that terrible things can happen without explanation or warning. She goes to therapy regularly, has worked through the survivor's guilt and the anxiety that came from being present when someone disappeared impossibly. Detective Sarah Chen is 69, retired from the Columbus Police Department since 2018. She said in interviews that the Lauren Walsh case is the one she thinks about most, the one that represents her failure as an investigator, even though the failure was in the evidence rather than in her effort. She worked the case for 11 years, applied every investigative technique available, consulted with experts from multiple fields, and never got closer to solving it than she was on day one. Detective Marcus Hill, who inherited the case when Chen retired, reviews the file every few months, enters new information when tips come in, and maintains the case as open and active even though there are no active leads to pursue. He's spoken to David and Patricia Walsh multiple times, has promised them that the case will remain open until it's solved, that Lauren deserves answers even if those answers seem impossible to find. The underground bar space, the building where Lauren disappeared, is currently a bubble tea place called Boba Bliss, operated by a young couple who bought the lease in 2022, and who knew nothing about the building's history until customers started mentioning it. They've had people come in asking to see where the bathroom hallway is, asking if they can take photos, asking about the security footage. The couple has considered putting up a small memorial or acknowledgement, but hasn't decided yet. The security footage still exists in the Columbus Police Department's evidence storage. The original DVR tapes have been digitized and backed up multiple times. Investigators still review it occasionally, still hoping to see something that 15 years of previous reviews missed. They never find anything new. The footage shows exactly what it showed in 2007, a young woman entering and never leaving. True crime coverage of Lauren's case continues regularly. New podcasts discover the case and do episodes about it. YouTubers make videos about the impossible disappearance. Reddit threads dissect theories. A documentary about unsolved disappearances featured Lauren's case in 2021, introducing her story to a new generation of people fascinated by mysteries. Each new piece of coverage generates a fresh round of tips. Most are well-meaning people who have theories. Some are psychics claiming visions. Some are trolls looking for attention. Every tip is logged and investigated to the extent possible, and everyone has led nowhere. Lauren Walsh would be 39 years old today. She'd presumably have graduated from Ohio State, would have pursued her plan to become a therapist, or would have found a different path. She might be married, might have kids, might be living anywhere in the country doing anything, or she might have died on March 31, 2007, somewhere in or near the underground bar, her body concealed in a way that's never been discovered despite exhaustive searches. Or she might have been abducted and taken somewhere, held for days or years, or is still being held now, 17 years later, for reasons that make sense to whoever took her, but have never been made public. Or something else happened, something the evidence doesn't support and logic doesn't permit, but something that would explain how a person enters a building with two exits, both on camera, and never appears leaving through either one. 17 years later, the central question of Lauren Walsh's disappearance remains unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. How does a person vanish from inside a building that has only two exits, both monitored by security cameras, without appearing in the footage from either exit? The security footage is not ambiguous. It's clear, time-stamped, verifiable. 83 people entered the underground on the night of March 31, 2007. The camera at the front entrance captured all 83 clearly. Among them, at 11:45:23 p.m., was Lauren Walsh, identifiable by her clothing, her appearance, walking down the stairs with her friends. Between 1:50 a.m. and 2:15 a.m., 83 people are shown leaving through the same entrance. Investigators have matched every person who entered to someone who left. The timing varies. Some people left quickly, some stayed for hours. But everyone who went in eventually came back out on camera, except Lauren. She entered. She did not leave. Or she left in a way the camera didn't capture, which would require a technical failure or blind spot that video forensics experts say doesn't exist. The back entrance footage is equally definitive. The camera shows the door remaining closed all night except for documented staff usage. No patron exits through that door. The alarm that would sound if the door opened never triggered. Lauren did not leave through the back exit. So if she didn't leave through the front and didn't leave through the back, where did she go? The building has been searched exhaustively, multiple times with cadaver dogs, with structural engineers looking for hidden spaces, with investigators checking every closet and storage area and crawl space. Lauren is not in the building. Her remains are not in the building. The theory that she's still somewhere in the building, concealed in a space that's never been found, requires accepting that searches involving trained professionals and dogs and structural analysis all missed the same hiding spot for 17 years. It's theoretically possible, but stretches credibility. The theory that she left through an undiscovered third exit requires accepting that engineers and building inspectors all missed an exit when examining the structure. Also theoretically possible, but highly unlikely. The theory that the cameras somehow failed specifically for Lauren, captured everyone else but missed her, requires accepting a technical glitch so precise and localized that it borders on supernatural. Video forensics experts say this is effectively impossible given the camera system and the footage analysis. The theory that she was removed in a container or vehicle requires explaining why the camera footage shows no large containers or vehicles being removed through either exit. Every explanation fails because the evidence contradicts it. The evidence says Lauren entered and didn't leave, but Lauren is also not inside. Both things can't be true simultaneously. But the evidence supports both. The Columbus Police Department's position after 17 years of investigation is that they don't have an explanation for how Lauren disappeared. They believe she was likely abducted, given that all her personal belongings were left behind, and she had no reason to disappear voluntarily. But they cannot explain the mechanics of how an abduction occurred without being captured on camera. The most popular theory among investigators, though it's not supported by physical evidence, is that somehow the camera footage is incomplete or incorrect, despite all technical analysis saying otherwise. That there must be a blind spot or a gap or a malfunction that allowed Lauren to leave without being recorded, and that the failure to identify that gap is due to investigator error rather than its non-existence. But 17 years of review by multiple agencies and independent experts have found no such gap. The footage appears complete and accurate. The supernatural theories that circulate online, that Lauren passed through a portal or was abducted by aliens or simply ceased to exist in this reality, are unfalsifiable and therefore unhelpful. They explain the unexplainable by invoking forces outside the boundaries of normal investigation. David and Patricia Walsh don't care about the mechanics at this point. They just want to know what happened to their daughter. Is she alive? Is she dead? Where is she? Who took her? Why hasn't she been found? After 17 years, they've accepted that they may never get answers. That Lauren may remain one of those unsolved mysteries that true crime enthusiasts discuss, and investigators turn over in their minds, but that never gets resolved. The pain of that, Patricia has said, is almost worse than if they'd found a body. With a body, there would be grief and loss, but also closure. They could bury their daughter. They could process the loss. They could eventually, maybe, find some kind of peace. With Lauren's disappearance, there's no closure. There's just waiting. Permanent, ongoing waiting for information that might never come. It's a particular kind of torture that families of the long-term missing describe as worse than death, because it never ends. If you have any information about Lauren Walsh's disappearance, if you were at the underground bar on the night of March 31st, 2007, if you saw anything or know anything or have any knowledge that might help explain what happened, please contact the Columbus Police Department. The tip line is still active. The case is still open. The Walsh family is still waiting. If you work in security camera systems or video forensics and have insights that might explain how someone could leave a building without being captured on footage that appears complete, please reach out. Every angle has been examined, but maybe there's something that's been missed. Maybe there's an explanation that 17 years of investigation haven't uncovered. If you are Lauren Walsh, or if you know where Lauren Walsh is, this is the time to come forward. 17 years is long enough. The family deserves answers. The case deserves resolution. Lauren Walsh walked into the underground bar on March 31st, 2007 at 11:45 p.m. She never walked out. Where she went and what happened to her remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in modern true crime history. Subscribe to this channel to follow cases like Lauren's, cases that defy explanation, cases that remain unsolved despite extensive investigation, cases that remind us how much we still don't understand about the world. Share this story. Keep Lauren's case visible. Keep pressure on the investigation. Keep the hope alive that someday, Somehow someone will provide the answer to the impossible question of how a person vanishes from inside a building without leave, because somewhere someone knows something. And after 17 years, it's time for them to speak.